Most people call me Fergie, but I'm Paul Ferguson with Trim Micro. I'm not an antivirus person. I'm a network security guy. I worked for Cisco most of the 90s. In fact, I went to work for Cisco when it used to be a small company. And prior to that, I have roots go back pre-NSFNet days. But that's neither here nor there. So this was also an invited industry position paper. I got volunteered by my boss because I'm a local. Let's see, view slideshow. Okay. So the reason why Vern asked you to hold questions is that this is a very broad landscape brushstroke to talk about emerging threats, and I'm going to go across quite a large swath of technologies here, and if we interrupt during each one of those to ask questions, this could easily go for a couple of hours. So let me just kind of get through this to the 20 minutes. I'll happily entertain questions and back up to particular slides. Okay, so first, let me just kind of like give you an overview of what my group does. We're actually a rather small group. We're like less than 20 people across the entire face of Trim Micro. And there's only me and one other gentleman in Northern California, and only 3 others in the U.S. We have a guy in like Halifax, Nova Scotia, and São Paulo. We have Cork, Ireland, Madrid, in the Netherlands. My boss is in Munich. We have a couple other people in our Munich office. We have a guy in Beijing, Tokyo, Philippines, and I'm sure I probably forgot someone else along the way. But we're looking at the entire technology landscape, both from a language and culture basis, because the threats are uniquely different based on culture and language and geography, and the motivations are different, as well as specific technology vertical markets like mobile, and whether it's Mac OS X or Windows 7 or Windows 8 or DNS infrastructure, routing, BGP, things of that nature. In fact, one of my pet projects is looking at industrial control systems. I've been engaged in the industrial control systems joint working group with DHS for a couple of years, trying to understand the unique requirements of the industrial control systems market, which are completely different than the traditional IT, enterprise, organizational security market. So what we're supposed to do actually is look out on the horizon and magically peer into a crystal ball and figure out, here's the things that we need to develop and the things we need to build to help protect our customers in the immediate 5 years out future. But part of doing that is we kind of really have to understand what's going on right now. And so what happens to fall out of all that is that we happen to observe a lot of things that's going on right now. And so basically what I'm going to do is go over some kind of bullet items of particular areas where we have observed that these are important things to take a mental note of on the emerging threats horizon. So with that, let's kind of like delve into it. If I could get the right buttons here. Okay. Sucks getting old. So here's basically the major items here. Evolution, the commoditization, the professionalism of exploit kits, the increasing sophistication of traffic direction systems, or TDSs, smaller, more diversified botnets as opposed to larger, monolithic botnets, modularization, evolution of mobile threats, the continued exploitation of social networks, attacks on critical infrastructure. HTML5 is a new attack surface, and exploitation of the functionality therein, and more data breaches via targeted attacks. I don't like using the term APT, but since everybody else is using it in the industry, I'm kind of forced to do so. And also something else we call, kind of hard to reach relocation of criminal activity, which is a phenomenon that's been going on for many years now, which criminals have gotten very good at learning how to maximize their window of opportunity and the duration of their operations. So let's kind of like talk about each one of these individually. Virtually all professional, what I like to call professional, Eastern European criminals are all using various exploit kits to increase the possibility of their successful compromise. And without getting into a discussion on what I consider to be professional, I kind of break threat actors into 5 different categories. And the one for me that I've followed most prolifically in the past probably 7 to 10 years are what I could consider to be the professional cyber criminals, and they're primarily in Eastern Europe. And then the other 4 categories is what then there's what I call Joe Blow, which is like ones that usually get caught because they're amateurs. There are ones nation state actors, which are usually ones carrying out targeted attacks for the most part. Then we have hacktivists, and then we have another category which I'd call outliers, which are the unknown unknowns, or sometimes overlap into each one of the other previous categories. But the professionals are mostly Eastern European. Their evolution of exploit kits has continued unabated, really, and actually with increased vigor in the past year, where they continually professionalized and what we see as a life cycle development and exploit kits that we see in traditional IT evolution.
Yeah, Paul, Rick Farrow. So doesn't it help that they're using, everyone likes to use the same kit? Doesn't that give us a better target to be looking for? Isn't that really useful? Yeah. I wasn't here. Have an excuse. I'm sorry, Paul.
That's okay.
Thank you.
You're at the top of the queue, Rick, when we come back. So right now, the black hole exploit kit is probably the most popular. We've seen a resurgence of a couple other ones now called Phoenix. They come in waves. It's whatever the new black is of the day, whichever one, and that's what they're black hole. They come back and incorporate new vulnerabilities when there's working exploits for them. And basically what they do is use heuristics to determine what vulnerabilities may exist on the existing browser or operating system, or whatever the potential victim is, to determine which exploit to serve up to compromise the end system. And as you can see, I have a couple of pretty pictures I stuck in here, but I didn't want to pollute it all with too many pictures. But the crime pack goes back probably 5 years, 6 years. Black hole is like the most recent. And so in between, I've missed a whole bunch of them, of course. But these actually follow a timeline. So this is something that another member of my group actually did a really lengthy white paper on, traffic direction systems. And they're used in conjunction with other systems, usually black hat search engine exploitation or some other type of web injection or something on a compromised websites or what have you. There's any number of different ways. And the traffic direction system usually sits between a compromised website or a black hat SEO and basically the exploit, the system serving up the exploits, whether it's an exploit kit or what have you. And basically this is what they're using to monetize and track the affiliate programs that are participating in the exploitation and the traffic direction themselves. So they can bring in victims and then direct them to certain exploit kits or certain landing pages where there's rogue AV or what have you, fake pharmaceuticals, exploit kits, what have you, based on affiliate IDs, and they also keep track of the statistics so they know who gets paid what for what campaign. So this is a highly professionalized, highly optimized, highly organized criminal operations that have basically become a commodity on the threat landscape. So what you can see here, this is actually 3 overlaid pictures, and basically up on the top you can see, I just stole this off of one of my colleagues' website the other day, a colleague in my group, not Villeneuve. Basically, you can see the bottom is the pay-per-click, pay-per-install campaign that was using this particular traffic direction system. And they keep track of, how many raw hits, how many unique hits, what the referrers were, blah, blah, blah. So they basically keep track of the monetization. So this is actually, I won't say it's new, but this has become what I would call de rigueur. It's a daily thing that they do to keep track of the affiliate campaigns and where the money coming in. Basically, we used to call it MCI, money coming in. how the money comes in, who gets paid what for what campaign, and where the traffic gets sent to, where it comes from. So another topic too that we've been seeing and observed is that we think that we've pretty much seen the end of the large monolithic 6 million victim botnet stuff like Configure. They're too big, they're too noisy, they don't fly under the radar, and if they get taken down by the lawyers at Microsoft or some coordinated effort by the HoneyNet project or Kaspersky or Trinmica or whomever, then basically all their eggs are in one basket and the criminals are out of business. So they're adapting to that mentality. So we're seeing a lot more diversification. And this is following on from a phenomenon that's been going on since, say, 2007, when the quote-unquote original Russian business network had all of their hosting in a single bulletproof hosting facility in St. Petersburg. And after Brian Krebs wrote a few articles about it and they got too much publicity, they said, oh, we're getting too much attention. And then they just did not announce their routes anymore. They had already, by that time, diversified all their properties into public hosting facilities that were much harder to kill because now they were blended in with the noise. So this is a very similar type of methodology that we're seeing with botnets. You know, it's much harder to kill 6,000 botnets of 100 bots each than it is, 60,000 or 600,000 botnet, single botnet, right? So banking Trojan botnets are a great example of this, like SpyEye and Zeus, because of the fact that they're kits and they're being bought and sold out there and anybody can use it. One of the best ways to give yourself a continued long life is by polluting the market and blending in with the noise. So if I have 10,000 other people out there doing the same crime, it makes it that much more harder to find me. Right. So we're seeing this type of diversification and blending in with the noise concept pervasively going out across the criminal landscape. This is another issue that I think is really, I foresee this to be a problem going forward. It's already started to manifest itself, especially in banking Trojans, and we're seeing it now adapted more towards other specialized Trojans. I hate to use the term botnets anymore because even that's not really even connected. The only thing true about it being called a botnet is it actually is receiving instructions from somewhere, right? It's more like these are specialized multistage Trojans, right? With the first stage always being very similar in nature, to get a foothold on the compromised system, and then basically downloading components that are very specialized for very specific tasks, whether it's screen grabbing or back connect to a backdoor rendezvous point, to download web injects for particular banks or particular targets, download DDoS components, download very specialized components, and this is the modularization concept, in fact, and it's starting to spread now across other platforms to include exploit kits and elsewhere. And I foresee a real problem here containing this phenomena if it starts spreading as much as we think it's going to, because it's going to make it very, very simple for now very unskilled actors to acquire very sophisticated technology. Plug and play. Yeah. Okay, so mobile threats as well. Well, there's a lot of my personal opinion in this slide. What I see right now primarily is a lot of what I consider to be proof of concept. The real mobile threats thus far have really been threats insofar as, what are we going to do? We send SMSs to premium numbers so we get some slice of revenue. It's not very financially motivated enough for criminals to really target specific platforms yet. However, I think that's going to change real soon now when there's more e-commerce applications moving on the mobile platforms. It becomes more adopted by the consumer market. insofar as when we start seeing the new next generation of handsets come out that have embedded near-field communications capabilities, I think we'll really start seeing a more concerted effort by the cyber criminal community to adopt those as a target to make money. Social networking, always the low-hanging fruit. It just allows criminals a much easier, unique opportunity to get close to their victims. People have a tendency to publish too much information about themselves, which makes them very easy to target. And humans are pretty stupid for the most part. You know, they're much too willing to click that link because I want to see the naked pictures of Anna Kournikova or whomever at the time. And there's no obvious reason to think this is going to change anywhere in the near future. So I'm one of those people that think the education bus has pretty much left the station already. Some hard lessons I think we're going to learn on the critical infrastructure. They're just like any other private networks, except in their privately owned private infrastructure, and most of them are not really well secured, or the people have made not very smart infrastructure decisions on their architecture. They haven't properly segmented themselves from the internet or from any public access. And we expect to see an escalation of security incidents, this is aside from media hype, where there's actual incidents within the next 5 years. HTML5, if you look on the Trend Micro website, one of my colleagues did an excellent white paper called HTML5, the good, the bad, and the ugly, about some of the great stuff that HTML5 brings, some of the bad stuff it brings, and some of the real ugly stuff that it brings. And frankly, it's not really that it's going to bring new threats, but it's going to bring a more homogeneous attack surface. So things that used to be kind of standalone corner case attack surfaces like cross-site scripting and WebSockets and some things that used to be only in Flash or only in JavaScript, now it's going to throw them all together on the same attack surface. And boy, oh boy, wait till we're going to have loads of fun with that. And similar to Java, it's also going to make it capable to basically run a system of compromised bots, for lack of a better term, regardless of the operating system, because it doesn't matter anymore. It's basically in the browser now. Whenever the browser's up, you've got control of the system. We expect to see more data breaches via targeted attacks and APTs. One of the observations here is most of all the target attacks we've seen have used very simple social engineering tricks. Masquerading as someone that you know in your own organization, or trying to ply you with information about a conference you might be interested in or something like that. Very simple stuff. Most of the people that open up these documents should know better. However, this goes back to the social engineering thing. We have no reason to think that people are going to all of a sudden get smart and stop clicking on these things and open them. So we have a tendency to think that this is going to continue as well. So the persistence issue, again, as someone else mentioned, that it's more of once they get in, the persistence is trying to move laterally and gain access to other systems. And the last one, actually, I think, is the more resistant services. This is one, I think, right now primarily where Africa is going to play a role. I think within the past 6 months to 9 months alone, there's been 4 new transoceanic cables brought onto the continent of Africa. So we're opening up a whole new world of infrastructure possibilities there. And it's not to say that most people are going to be walking around with laptops. I think that most of us are going to be mobile, but that remains to be seen. But as that infrastructure matures, that's going to open up a whole new possibility for cyber criminals. And what we've seen over time is that cyber criminals, they know which domain registrars have a history of not asking a lot of questions. They know which hosting providers don't respond to abuse requests in a timely manner. These guys know where to go to maximize their window of operation or window of opportunity. So there's no reason to think that they would also go into Africa or other new emerging markets, because the security abuse roles there have not fully matured. So that's something we think we're also going to see, that this is going to continue. And so basically a summary is that, this is just basically a snapshot in time for us. And, just like the weather in Texas, wait 15 minutes and it will change. Biggest challenge for us is to adapt quickly to change any landscape, and that's the same for any organization. And threats have a tendency to manifest themselves in the most bizarre, mundane ways. Is that you don't have to think of a lot of sophisticated ways to pose a threat on the cybersecurity landscape. So now let's open up for questions. Rick?
Well, what I was trying to ask before was simply, doesn't the fact that they use these toolkits give you an easier way to actually see the actors? You know, I'm assuming that there's some level of standardization, might be a recognizable pattern that a virus, an AV company could look for, or even an IPS could look for.
Yes, actually it does. I mean, but this is a constant arms race, as always is. You know, them adapting, we adapting, us adapting. In fact, right now for us, we're prototyping some systems right now that, again, I'm not an AV guy, but we're looking for patterns in traffic. I mean, we basically see every URL that our customers go to. They're semi-anonymized, right? So it's to get around privacy issues. But we see all the gets. And that includes the URL strings. I mean, so for like a lot of the exploit kits, you can see they're very recognizable formats in the URL strings that it can be picked out. So yes, it's just a matter of like looking in the right place for them.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Can you come to the mic? Yeah.
So the problem is that it's easy for them. So kits make it easy for cyber criminals to create more work for us. So it's much easier to create new variants of a virus, of an existing virus, by repacking it than to adapt the signatures to detect it. Right.
Yeah, for the exploit kits, actually, I mean, they're looking, and 99.9% of the potential victims could protect themselves just by patching their existing software, and most of it's all third-party stuff and browser plugins. You know, people did like, you know, and I don't want to, I don't tell my boss I said this, you know, there's a third-party application that you can download, and it keeps track of all the software revisions on your computer if you run a Windows machine, and it can tell you, oh, your Flash is outdated, please update it, your Java's outdated, please update it. You know, they're going after these outdated third-party applications that basically that exploit kits are looking for, and says, you have old version of Java? Boom, I've got you. If people just patch their systems, 99% of them would be protected.
Okay, so this is probably more so because of my own ignorance here on this topic. But you and another speaker made a statement that nation states are carrying out APTs. So can you provide any guidance? Can you point me to, you know, the foundation for that statement? Because we are assuming now that that is the case, at least in 2 talks here so far.
Okay, let me rephrase my statement. We presume from the circumstantial evidence, empirical evidence that we have seen, that nation states are behind it.
Can you say more about this empirical evidence? The reason is I think we have to be, you know, the onus is on
I
us
think
to be
that
a little bit cautious about these statements that we're making.
Quite frankly, if you're a nation state and you're not doing it, you're probably behind that curve.
So this is wishful thinking on your part?
No, it's not wishful thinking. I mean, in fact, somebody made a reference to the white paper that we did on Lurid. You can go read that paper. Or we just did, the Semantic did a great job on the Lucky Cat paper. We came out with Lucky Cat Redo and provide a lot more information about that. I think if you just go read those 2 papers alone, I can't see how anybody who read those papers will walk away with a different conclusion.
Okay, Lucky Cat Redo?
Lucky Cat. Just go search for Lucky Cat. Well, we have the principal investigator that was involved in GhostNet from University of Toronto Scilab in my group now. So.
Hi. So this crime kit or a tech kit business seems a lot like phishing kits that people were using a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And then some people from my group actually undertook a pretty interesting study of a bunch of phishing kits, and they found out that the people selling those phishing kits to other bad people actually snitch a copy of every credential that they steal, so they can get the same information too. Did you investigate the tech kits that you see? Is there similar behavior, or are the people there more trustworthy?
I can't really speak to that. I mean, this is a... so the answer is no. We haven't looked at that. I mean, there have been some very close examinations of the kits themselves, the functionality therein, and attempts to identify the people behind them, and people have gone so far as to identify them, if simply nothing more than their nickname. But to go down in depth and profile them and follow them individually to understand their interaction with other people, no, I can't speak to that.
So I've done a lot of research on my own. I'm from DB Labs, and we've done a lot of research on exploit kits, tracking on black holes specifically, and some of the newer ones as well. And what we've been really surprised by is how they're actually software products. They're essentially software products now. And so I didn't know if you had any comments on that, or some of the newer exploit kits are actually incorporating like anti-honey client technologies, anti-crawling technologies, and stuff like that.
Right. Well, you mean the productization?
Well, yeah. So it's like, you know, they release bug fixes. They release, it's like,
yes,
we have a new spinner.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I was using the term
interface.
Professionals, because, again, these guys have a very professionalized life cycle support, you know, cradle to grave, bug fixes, tech support hotlines, whether via ICQ or via a forum, email, or what have you, just like it was any regular business. As if you pay the money, you get support. It's just business.
Yeah.
You understand Russian culture.
Yeah,
you know.
that's pretty much what we found out too.
It's just business. Why you interfere with my business?
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
So is your report on it?
So just one more comment on that. There's a very robust business marketplace in the Eastern European underground. A gentleman from Sophos, and I can't remember pronounce his last name, wrote a paper on it a couple of years called the Partnerka. And Partnerka is kind of like the partner business network, the Partnerka, about how these people buy and sell products to one another and services to one another. It's very robust. It's like, you know, and how the install and pay-per-click businesses work and how the affiliate IDs is very sophisticated and very robust and very profitable, apparently.
So could the next speaker please set up? And I have one final thing I wanted to ask just while they're setting up. Just we've been pursuing a research agenda recently of trying to disrupt profitability as opposed to trying to secure systems. I'm wondering if you think that has promise, that has too problematic. What's your notion of making cybercrime less profitable as a way to undermine it? Next speaker.
Well, my opinion is that's the only way to approach it, because knocking down botnets doesn't work. And all you have to do is look at every single botnet seizure or takedown that's happened over the course of the past 5 years. It doesn't work. It may work for a week or a month, but it always comes back. I mean, that's one way to hurt them, but it always comes back. I mean, but the best way to hurt these guys is to not deny them access to the ability to do business as usual, and that drives their costs up. And that's the best way to hurt them.
Great. Can't hear you.
Are you going to dilute the market?
No, we're actually going after like the. If you ask like.
My question to you: Are you going to dilute the market? You said you're going to.
No, but Vern knows what. But Vern, that's a good question, because I know Vern's name's been associated with like Stefan Savages and some very good work that they have done on like enumerating the Visa merchants and the merchant accounts and the banks and stuff that these guys are laundering their money through. And if you go through and do some of the work that these guys have done, this hurts these guys very good, because if they go in public with the information and contact the banks and alert them of it, the banks would then refuse to do business with them and basically cuts these guys off from the ability of actually doing this business at all. So that's a very smart question, and it was a loaded one, and yes, indeed. So very much
All right,
so.
well, let's thank the speaker again.